Okay, thank you all today for joining this afternoon session. It's after a heavy lunch. Hope you all can stay awake today. So this afternoon topic, we're going to talk about the ASEAN-China business and economic collaboration and what are the opportunities that are available from RCEP, the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, and the Belt and Road Initiative, as well as Hong Kong, Macau, Guangdong, Greater Bay Area. So with me, I have distinguished speakers, panelists from China, from Cambodia, from Malaysia, as well as from Switzerland, right? So two online speakers, right? So the topic today is an important topic for all of us to discover and explore. And the idea of RCEP, right? RCEP began to go live this January 2022. And it is the largest free trade agreement in the history of mankind, right? It covers 1/3 of the world's GDP and 1/3 of the world population, right? So if India had joined the RCEP, it would have covered 1/2 the world population, right? So India did not manage to join, right? So it covers 10 countries of ASEAN and 5 countries, China, Korea, Japan, Australia, and New Zealand, right? So it is mainly a very huge trade agreement. The next one will be the NAFTA from US, Mexico, and then the EU's agreement, right? So largest agreement in the world, and it's going to add to our GDP economy about $200 billion a year from 2030. And then regard to Belt and Road Initiative, right? This is the 9th year of Belt and Road Initiative since President Xi Jinping came to power. So next year will be the 10-year anniversary of the Belt and Road Initiative. And then the Greater Bay Area is quite a new concept. It is work in progress, right? The Hong Kong, Macau, Guangdong, Greater Bay Area cover 11 cities, 9 cities in Guangdong, and then with 2 special zones, Hong Kong and Macau, right? It is still work in progress, but there's a lot of work happening now in the Hong Kong and Macau and as well as Guangdong area, right? It's one of the largest Bay Area in the world, right? It's bigger than San Francisco, the Silicon Valley. It's bigger than New York Bay Area and Tokyo Bay Area. So I'm going to introduce the various speakers, not by orders of importance, but they are all very important. So next to me is the Dr. Siphana, my friend from Cambodia. Dr. So is a lawyer by training, right? He has 3 doctorates, 3 PhDs, right? So he's not he speaks French, right? But he's also involved as a minister in Cambodia, involved in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, right? So he's not just here to talk about Cambodia, also talk about ASEAN in general, right? On my left, Mr. Sun Zhiguo from Beijing, right? He's the top guy from this Zhenhe Research Center in China, and a friend of our Tan Sri linking you, right? Amen. And then we have on the right my friend Dr. Jayles Yeoh, right? I'm gonna read his CV. He's Dr. Jayles is a chairman of this AIMSMET group, and he's also involved in a lot in education, and he traveled a lot to China as well as overseas as well to give talks. He's a professor as well in many universities, right? And on my extreme left is Professor Zheng Mingyu, right? From Utah in KL. She is a professor and also a head of research center for Belt and Road, right? Belt and Road Research Center in Utah, right? So a scholar, and of course we have 2 online, one from Switzerland. Mr. Online, can you see can I show the online picture? Okay. Mr. Mahalingam is the founder and CEO of Strategic Swiss Partners, right? He's involved in the financial advisory in China as well in Switzerland, right? So he's based in Switzerland, so you're going to dial in from Zoom, right? And then, of course, we have, last but not least, right? We have a distinguished professor, Emeritus, Professor Suthiphand, Chirathivat, right, from Chulalongkorn University. Right. Chulalongkorn University. So he is also director of Central Group, company, one of the biggest groups in Thailand as well, right? So before further ado, I'd like to invite our first speaker, the scholar from Utah, to say a few words, to say 5 to 10 minutes, 5 to 7 minutes.
Okay.
Of comments. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Stephen Lai. I have prepared 2 slides to save the time, to present the points. Is the slide ready? So this is basically just to show you some of the figures on the economic collaborations between ASEAN and China. No, it's okay. Maybe if you don't have the slide, maybe. Okay, never mind. Then maybe I will just explain it. Okay, actually, basically, the slide does help us to visualize, the numbers that I'm going to share with you. So basically, since after the introductions of this Belt and Road Initiative in 2013, we can see that there is a significant increase in the bilateral trade between ASEAN and China, and in fact, ASEAN overtook the United States to become China's second largest trading partner in 2019, and even overtook European Union to become China's top trading partners in 2020. So that's how you can see the intensity of the trade between China and also ASEAN. And major products traded between China and ASEAN are basically in the E&E products, commodities such as petroleum, iron and steel, and also agriculture products. So the intensified bilateral trade relationship between ASEAN and China actually also come along with the a steady increase in the intra-industry trade. So actually, to examine the trade and industry linkages between ASEAN and China, we have our team actually at Utah with the collaborations of CABA and also supported by Falim Group. We have conducted a study to examine the trade linkages and also the industry linkages. We use the trade data and using the social network analysis to analyze the linkages between the industry in ASEAN and China. So the result shows that the result actually reveals that there is increased linkages to the global production networks for both China and ASEAN. And at the same time, there was also increased integration in the value chain between the industry in ASEAN and also China through the export and import activities. So industry that play the roles as a hub to connect ASEAN and China, basically in the manufacturing-based industry such as computer electronic, in the resource-based sectors, petroleum, iron and steel, and also in agriculture sector. I think these are the 3 main sectors that play the roles as a hub to connect the industries between ASEAN and China. That's what we have seen from the trade analysis. Of course, moving forward, I think the emphasis will be very much on the new growth industries, especially in healthcare, in e-commerce, green technology, multimedia, and communications, as what have been mentioned by speakers a lot this morning. And on the questions on how to deepen or strengthen the relationship between ASEAN and China, the economic and trade relationships, we have conducted surveys and interviews with more than 500 business leaders in Malaysia, in Indonesia, and the Philippines in 2020. So basically, very interesting results that we got. We asked them about what are the challenges, the experience in collaborating with partners in China, and also what are the necessary conditions to promote the economic cooperations. So among the key challenges that have been highlighted, I think that the one that actually become quite significant actually is a lack of understanding on the business practices and also the business culture in China, especially in the northern part, in certain part of China, especially the northern part of China, and also lack of skill or experienced personnel to handle international business processes. And of course, some of them also mentions about the poor transport connectivity between ASEAN and China, certain part of China. So in view of that, we would like to actually propose actually to focus on the 4 aspects so that we can see how we can further promote. Of course, I think with the introductions or implementation of RCEP, some of these obstacles may be reduced to a certain extent. But first of all, I think we need to provide more transport and logistic connectivity to facilitate people, goods and services. Okay. And secondly, I think it's quite important also to focus on capacity building to nurture management professionals equipped with the cross-national knowledge of laws and cultures, especially. So for better communication, I think this part is quite important. And thirdly is on the providing networking platforms. Okay. For interactions, for connection building, and also for sharing of information. Activities like what we are having today, conferences, trade fairs, business trips, are considered quite important. Building up people interactions and also personal relations building is quite critical in forming long-lasting business corporations. I think that is one of the aspects that we can propose. Of course, we also would think that is very important is stable and also business-friendly policies. I think we have seen a lot of challenges, in these few years, especially in Malaysia, for instance, the policy keep on changing. I think we need to have more stable policies and also to reduce the obstacles, procedural obstacles especially, and also the compliance costs of doing international businesses. So to that extent, I think RCEP would definitely help to promote more economic integrations in the regions, in particular between ASEAN and China. So I would like to just stop here for the time being, and then maybe we have more for discussion later on. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Chen, for your very good introduction to this forum this morning. I'd like to invite right now Professor Jayles Yeoh. He's going to catch a flight to Johor later. Why don't you share your views about this topic? Yeah.
Thank you, Stephen. First of all, I'd just like to pay my respect to Tan Sri Chukun, who is here together with us, a very most learned person. Now, I thought that talking about this topic today, I just like to share some of my experiences. I have been the president of the ASEAN Retail Franchise Federation, and we look at ASEAN Economic Community, which all of you know. I think before we could even talk about a 2 billion market from a 600 million population market, we have to really leave this question behind. How has EAEC succeeded? The chairmanship rotated among these countries. If you look at it, we don't really succeed that much as it's been planned in the blueprint. Reasons to me that I myself find out is that there is this trust among even the ASEAN countries. There is this language problem, culture otherwise. I often ask people when we mingle in ASEAN, when we go to Vietnam, when we go to Cambodia, when we go to Thailand, which is the language of communication that we want to actually communicate. We speak the English language, but in Laos, Myanmar, and there is always this uncertainty. When I do business in Vietnam, when they are not happy, then they start to speak in Vietnamese. And all on earth, I don't understand the word. I feel much more better working with China, and because I can understand, although I'm a banana in Chinese, I can understand when they get angry, when we can't start to sign the agreement. So that basically is one of the obstacles, one of the challenges that is there. And it cannot be changed with all kinds of agreement policies, all kind of incentive given, whether it's tax incentive and so on, unless the human capacity among us, the so-called 2 billion with this ASEAN, the One Belt, One Road and the GBA, we are talking now about 2 billion people. In China alone, there are, as you know, there are different languages spoken, different thinking, the South and the South. So how on earth do we really want to look into this? I myself is a champion in education. So I communicated with this country to bring Malaysian education to this country. And because we believe that we could develop human capital development through postgrad programs, as particularly in China, I have some 5,000 students studying MBA, doctoral programs, and so on. I had a problem when I want to bring Malaysian program in a private universities, because as far as the Malaysian authorities is concerned, it must be delivered in English. There is no two way about it that you want to deliver it in China in bilingual. So I take some time to get this obstacle and got it approved in the sense of still approved in principle. There is no black and white. Because if you want to build human capacity in terms of business skills, putting to a MBA master skills, it is not the English language, because the Chinese people, the CEOs who come to these programs in Beijing, Shanghai, 30 centers, don't want to speak English. They love the content. They love and respect Malaysian universities because we have good business partner. They want to understand. We go there and teach. I am a short Asian guy, no blue eyes. They still respect us, so they don't look at us as those days that when we look at the American and British, we all, wow, everything they say is correct, which means the Chinese trust us. But we have problem with our own policy. However, having said so, it took me 5 years to overcome that, and we graduate some 5,000 over students in China as we speak. Tomorrow, when I'm going to JB, our campus is in JB, main campus. Some of them are flying over to graduate. So I'm talking about this is important because whatever you want to do, human capacity through lifelong learning is the basis. So then we talk about, when we are talking to all of you, should I speak Chinese? Should I speak English? One time we are asked to speak Bahasa Malaysia. Thank God that is not needed at the moment. All right. Otherwise, there will be 3 languages to be spoken in this seminar, for example, in Malaysia. All right. So the next thing that I would like to ask is, when we want to go on, and I leave these questions to Suthiphand for you because it's very rude for me to leave at 3:30 to catch my flight, about 3:15. Who is the champion? So now when we have ASEAN AEC, we rotate every year, 2 years. So Malaysia is the champion, tomorrow Cambodia, next day. So it's the same. If you rotate the prime minister every 2 years, there is no champion. All right. So you need to have that to champion that. So if we want to have this, now we have Australia coming in, New Zealand, China, and so on. So who is the champion to ensure that this One Belt, One Road, this RCEP will succeed? Who is that person? And that's important. I think rotating it will not be a solution to the big idea, the big picture that we want to achieve for the economic. It goes back to the Chinese word trust, Xingyong. That means the trust among all these countries that want to be involved. It cannot just be the legal aspect or the economic aspect. So I think I leave this for some thoughts among us. Thank you.
Okay, I think Prof J gonna catch a flight. So I asking one question. I mean, to build trust, right? To build trust takes time, right? It takes a lot of time, and those who have done business in a lot of countries, in ASEAN countries, right? I've done business in a lot of countries, Saigon, I mean, Vietnam, India. I mean, in most countries in ASEAN, right? And I pay a lot of school fees, right? But I think trust is built over time. It cannot also happen overnight. And I think how do you propose that we can change the the current situations? What's the good?
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's true. But if we talk about these 10 countries that we are talking about now, the 6+4, it is not that New Zealand is new to us. Neither is Australia or China. We have this civilization among us for. It's just that those days we are not unable to connect, but now with the internet, with everything, we are actually are connected. As we are talking, we are connected to our friends in China. So they no longer hear from third party. So I think building trust among people is still, I remember when I started a university in Africa, in Botswana, some 5 years ago, we started the university with them without an agreement signed. I don't want to mention the name of the university. Maybe Tan Siew Kuchukun will know. It's a university that the government sponsored us 1,000 students to start. Anyway, I don't mind mentioning it's our late Tan Sri Lim Kawing. I was with him before, and I was the person behind it. And I told him, anyway, I told him, Tan Sri, if you want to sign agreement with them, if you read the index, Africa is the worst country to work with because they don't honor all the agreement. All right, you can sue each other as you like. So that the person, the leader, must use the trust basis with the president that we work with and say, okay, we go ahead, and then we sign the agreement later. And truly that relationship that we have in Botswana works until today. We started with 5,000 students there, and now we have about 1,000. And that is a main income market for us when I was in Lipko at that time. So just to cut it short, I'm trying to say that as humans, we need to just keep on connecting with each other as we do. And I believe we are not robots and we cannot be replaced by AI. That trust will be built and through all the things that we are doing. Thank you. Okay. I'm sorry I need to catch a flight, and I thank you. My apologies. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Prof. Jayles. Okay, I'm going to move now from KL to Switzerland, right? I'm going to ask Mr. Mahalingram to share his thoughts on this topic.
Hello from Switzerland, dear panel colleagues attending the Global Chinese Economic Technology Summit. It's a pleasure to be here. Being born in Malaysia with roots in Malaysia and over 40 years in Switzerland, and being a board member of the Swiss Asian Chamber, I am happy to join this call. Yes, RCEP, yeah, I'm learning I was always pronouncing it RCEP, right? The full pronunciation. RCEP is indeed, as I say, the largest free trade bloc in the world in terms of economic power and population. Yeah, its huge market potential attracts the global businesses, right? And living in Europe and seeing how the whole advantage that RCEP can bring to even global businesses is very interesting, right? I have my fellow colleague as well, Mr. Felix Sutter, who is the president of the Swiss Chinese Chamber of Commerce here on this webinar. I'm sure he will also like to add more. But what I like to really add, when our learned colleagues who know I'm not going to go too deep into RCEP to say what benefits and all that. The benefits are fantastic. The word trust, what the professor said, is absolutely correct. Deepening the trust culture, business culture. I think this is the most important, the human value, right? Now, saying that most countries will have rectified the agreement into the RCEP, which actually brings big opportunities to international and Western enterprises who would like to see how do they access the China market, right? So the couple of ways now with the trade sentiment which is going on, we say, how do we look into this, And in my opinion, I believe Western companies can forge partners with ASEAN countries, right? And how they can offer their services, their manufacturing facilities, joint into China. And this is a two-way street, right? In my capacity as a financial advisor, we have a partnership with China directly with the state-owned enterprises, right? In investments. And one of the key reasons that I've faced, I do have to say, the sentiment of European investors going into Asia, into China particularly, has been sort of like challenging. Now, coming to ASEAN, bridging this, right, is a very interesting bridge that I see, right? And we are currently looking at how to set up operations like in Malaysia, which is part of the company, sort of relationship, which we would like to sort of build this bridge into China. Now, talking about the BRI, I want to just particularly focus in Asia, right? The China Belt and Road Initiative, or BRI as we call it, right, is an important role in helping Asian countries broaden their development road and grow their economy and develop jobs, right? So I believe that BRI will be a driving force to continue expanding cooperation, right, among countries in the region and in the world. China has efficiently promoted ASEAN economics development through the Belt and Road Initiative, right? I would also like to say that Asian countries like Malaysia, Thailand, Vietnam, Cambodia, and many RCEP member countries are bound to be attractive jurisdictions, right? How businesses can be connected into China, Asia, Europe, right? So yes, with this, I will, I don't want to go too much RCEP because I see there are a lot of learned colleagues here today. With that, I would say we are currently looking very seriously to moving some European or Western entities into ASEAN, right? To how we can do these global businesses. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mahangam. So next, I will move to China. I have Mr. Sun Zhiguo from Beijing. He will share in Mandarin, so you need translation. Can you get? You ask the usher for, So, Mr. Sun, I'll leave it to you to share.
Uh, 谢谢大家，很荣幸呢，我今天从北京来到我们马来西亚，参加今天我们这个全球华人经济与科技峰会。我觉得这个会议是非常的重要。大家也知道，我们现在从中国好像出来一趟也不是很容易，所以这次也比较幸运啊，我们能今天在吉隆坡参加这个会议。因为我是做这个郑和下西洋研究的。郑和呢是华人的这个文化的这个杰出的代表了。今天我们这个会议呢，华人经济与科技峰会，为啥我要觉得我用中文来讲？我觉得因为大家都是用英文，我考虑到，因为毕竟我们谈的是华人经济文化，所以说用中文呢也有一定的意义，这样的。所以说我在这里就今天用中文来讲。正如我们上午我们中国驻马大使也讲到了，我们现在中国和马来西亚的关系是非常友好的这样一个关系，长期以来的这个交往非常的深。并且我们在马来西亚的投资也是我们中国“一带一路”沿线国家最多的地方。所以说我从研究郑和这个角度出发呢，我们就针对中国和东盟经贸合作。我有一点简单的我们的一些看法，跟大家在这里分享一下。本次活动的主题是东盟中国的经济和商务合作。大家知道，谈到东盟呢，我们肯定离不开郑和这个概念。每次我们中国的领导人到了东南亚来访问，都会提郑和。从郑和精神深化到中国和东盟的这个经贸合作，我们要共建中国东盟命运共同体。我觉得这也是咱们新的马来西亚政府可能也是一个新起点，可能也有这方面的考虑想法。我们郑和精神呢是包括开放兼容的思想、开拓创新的勇气和自强不息的伟大民族精神。用我们马来西亚的话讲，就是多元文化。我觉得这个是很好的一个概述了。郑和多元文化，我们怎么来合作？当前形势下，就是如何深化中国和东盟的经贸合作。这个很多专家呀、政府官员也讲的很多。我从我们这个郑和研究会，我们这样一个中国的搞公共外交的这样一个智库的角度，我想简单的给大家分享有几点意思。第一，就是要 继续加强设施联通的这个建设，这也是很多场合大家都在提的。这是一共有5个方面。第2个方面呢，就是提高货物贸易合作水平。第3个方面呢，就是扩大服务贸易合作。第4个，加强产业的投资和合作。第5个，开放合作创新的水平。我们一直在谈这个整合精神，比如跟我们的马六甲，我们早上呢，我们的议长也讲到，包括我们2个单词里都讲到这个整合的合作。是这次会议我觉得上午用的很多篇幅在说这个整合，我们怎么样把整合西夏西洋经过马六甲这样一个事情，从古代的600年这样一个长久的考验的这样一个东西啊，我们化作新时代中国和马来西亚合作，中国和马六甲合作的这样一个，和我们的边城啊这合作的一个能够落地的，让大家能见得到的这样一个产业园什么，我觉得这个是核心，不是在于开一个会议或什么样的会议开完了什么也没有，这个不行的，一定要能够落地，一些产业落地，从经贸方面或者什么合作，我觉得这个是我们现在要突出的一个重点。像马六甲呢，我们中国的教科书学生的中小学生的教科书里面就有整合，知名度非常的高，但是我们到了马六甲怎么来看到当代这个跟中国的经济合作相对还是比较少，怎样利用好中马关系这个友好这样一个大的背景，进一步加深我们当地的经济的合作，我觉得这个也是我们中国东盟经贸合作的一个重点，就是务实，一定要落地，觉得这个不是要空谈口号，这是第1个。第2个呢，从新时代我们构建中国东盟的命运共同体建设。大家知道这个中国东盟命运共同体概念是2013年10月份的时候，我们的国家主席习近平同志在印尼国会演讲时候提出的，携手共建中国东盟命运共同体。到现在呢，将近10年的时间了。明年呢，也是我们中国政府提出这个“一带一路”倡议10周年，所以说10年来我们中国加强和“一带一路”沿线100多个国家的这个合作，大家也是能看得见的。虽然国际形势比较复杂，但是我们还是在做我们中国政府应该能做的事情，在推动经济的全球化合作。当今世界正经历100年未有之大变局，从俄乌战争到各个方面了，大家都能见得到的很多了。世界正面临着不确定和不稳定的因素正在增加，在新形势下，如何深化中国同东盟各国的友好合作，如何建设更为紧密的中国东盟的命运共同体，是双方需要给予高度考虑的重大问题。觉得这也是我们今天一个重点。这里面呢，我从4个方面简单的讲，一个是就是提升战略互信，每个国家都有我们的自己的战略发展规划，就怎么样把我们双方的这个战略规划，我们叫深入对接发展。我们中国提的“一带一路”倡议，印尼有它的提法，马来西亚有马来西亚的提法，我们怎么样从战略层面进行对接，达到共赢的这样一个效果？我觉得这也是我们要深入分析的，这个也是各个国家和中国要正确处理关系的一个非常重要的一个基本点嘛。第2个就是提升经贸合作，加快地区经济全面复苏。大家知道了，这个疫情3年对我们中国基本上人员出境是比较困难的。现在呢，我们中国共产党的20大已经开过以后，我们对外的可能有一些大家看到，可能一些出入境的一些政策一些放松，包括我们最近大家也见了，我们国内的疫情检测呀，都有政策的调整。我希望这是一个很好的信号，我们中国也会很快呢继续加深和各个国家的这个直接往来啊。 疫情期间我们的对外贸易增长的非常多，主要是通过海运、空运。刚刚疫情开始，我们的防疫物资大家都知道，非常多的都是从中国运出来的，这样中国也为世界各国就做了非常大的贡献。第三个呢是提升科技创新，深化数字经济合作。就这次我们是前些时间在印度尼西亚巴厘岛开的 G20 会议上，我们习主席也专门提到加强数字经济合作，这个是未来的一个重点。好像我们马来西亚政府也在提这个数字经济，这个是非常重要的一个科技创新的。第四个呢是提升抗疫合作，加强公共卫生能力建设。这个我们务实已经做的比较多了，但是后疫情时代正在到来，我们怎么样继续做好这个抗疫合作也是重点。第五个方面就是公共外交推进海上合作。公共外交呢，它不同于这个传统的外交，大家知道，我们公共外交更多的是介于官方外交和民间外交中间的这样一个外交，是更能了解双方的主要矛盾，就是我们来推动双方的合作。21世纪海上丝绸之路是亚非欧国家共同参与的合作蓝图，亚非欧各国理应全面摒弃冷战的思维，相互共建合作共赢的新型国家关系，推进海上合作，构建人类命运共同体。要实现这样的合作，通过公共外交对接合作是最有效的方式。21世纪海上丝绸之路建设需要实现3个对接，即古今对接、陆海对接、各国发展战略的对接。任何事情都是有历史，任何历史都有昨天、明天相对接。上午呢，我们的丹斯里李金友先生也讲过，我们要从郑和这个出发点，我们要将来建设一个全世界华人的一个重要的合作的一个平台。我们要树立，比如说这个郑和的这个和平像，大家以郑和为一个很好的一个平台，来推动全世界华人的合作。郑和下西洋当年经过30个国家和地区，这和我们现在中国政府提的"一带一路"倡议里边的海上丝绸之路合作关系很密切。我想通过郑和这个角度来推动中国和东盟的合作。各国发展战略对接，就是要在各国尊重彼此规划的这个基础上，找出共同点和合作点，共同制定合作的规划，推进各类合作项目的实施。就每个国家按照自己的规划发展，但是找到相互的结合点、共同点进行合作。各种海洋合作正在成为中国和海上丝绸之路沿线各国合作的新的亮点。我们必须运用新时代的郑和精神，深化中国东盟经贸合作，共建中国东盟命运共同体。祝本次活动圆满成功。好，谢谢大家。
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sun, to share with us how to learn from the spirit of Zheng He, to really facilitate, to foster the partnership between ASEAN and China, the collaboration between China and China. So I do not want to leave my Thailand friend lonely, but I can leave my Cambodian friend next to me. So let's move to Thailand now, Bangkok, right? A professor emeritus from Chulalongkorn University, the top university in Thailand, and a scholar on ASEAN and China. Professor, it's your time. Yeah.
Thank you. Could you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Chair, and also very happy to join all panelists and from the room, physically in the room in KL, and also from Zoom from abroad. Also, hello to all participants. I think very important, as outlined from the beginning by the chair, this session deal with the ASEAN-China economic and business collaboration. We try to look into future opportunities. It is also not quite an easy exercise, of course, considering what the world we live this day, and also we had a session this morning to outline the kind of the world we are and the kind of globalization that not quite the way we had the past few decades. So again, I think it's that's why I think it's ASEAN. I would like to say a few words in 5 minutes. ASEAN-China business cooperation. I think for me it's not developing in a vacuum. Because it's we always been very open. We always been globalized up to today. But now these days is very much more impacted by the global as well as the regional change. The regional is the one that we try to adapt in this ASEAN-China economic cooperation. So I don't heard anyone this session talking about even the COVID-19. So it seems to be behind, that we are perhaps already on a recovery trend, and China committed to open the beginning of the next year, which is really the good news also for our relationship, our partnership, and for the world. So but still, there's still many other challenges. If you're looking at not beyond the war in Ukraine, we're talking about that's reflect the kind of geopolitical tension, and even go back a few years ago to U.S.-China, that's during the Trump trade war and tech war and all that, So it caused everyone to think about it, and still going on. And this is something, if you consider only the Ukraine war, is already impact-wide on the global economy in terms of food energy supply, in terms of that's some kind of the inflation, which is not, of course, per se provoked by the war. So that's also dealing with the kind of situation we have now, So we're talking in terms of the slowdown of the global economy, perhaps turn into recession. Not next year, some said already start, in November, December now. And that's going to be the next few years that I have to deal with as well as our partnership. So that's why I like to keep in mind, that this ASEAN-China economic cooperation, we need to look at these kind of global change and challenges. Next, I come to the second point. I said that I think it's in this session, we're dealing with the economic business collaboration. So I think all of us must make sure, all of us mean here we are a lot of think tanks, policymakers, and many friends here. So we must make sure that ASEAN-China partnership, will remain relevant to our businesses. We just had the Good Tree Summit in ASEAN. Dr. Sok sit down here, our colleague in the room. Starting from Phnom Penh, and then we go to G20 in Jakarta, and we finish the APEC in Bangkok. So ASEAN try to work hard. ASEAN centrality is remain the core as the way we're moving, and we're working very well with also with China. I think this is important that we need to not only of course the leadership is already there. I'm not quite agree that there's no leadership, but of course a continuing leadership I think is important. We have quite a few figures who play the role in different areas. And for ASEAN-China FTA, it's already 20 years, and some say that also now we look at the partnership. I think that Professor, the lady, I forgot the name, sorry, that you mentioned for the beginning. This is also the most important now, in terms of China and ASEAN. We become both number one trading partner in looking either side. And it's go on for our investment, substantiating by the BRI in the past 10 years, almost 10 years, we now celebrate next year in Beijing, the third forum. So I hope very much we discuss about DBI in connection to also our ASEAN, because we have the master plan on ASEAN connectivity. But we don't have much money. ASEAN, the problem with ASEAN is not much money. So we are fortunate to have that money, but we have to make it a joint ownership, because China bring the money in. And we hope very much from the ASEAN side that China consider the host country, feel the ownership of the project, which also belong to different level of people. So that's how I would see is important the kind of connectivity, because this is very important, because it's go hand in hand with the free trade agreement, it's go hand in hand with the investment promotion and all sort of things, and also people to people contact. So we need that kind of BRI project in connection to our master plan. And this year RCEP, you mentioned most productive. I would say most productive. Economic jargon would be most trade creation. And I would say the least trade diversion, if using the kind of principle to substantiate behind our project. But for the business would be, I would say this is the most productive, because China have all kind of productive capabilities, all kind of value chain that you have, you start from electronic product, high-tech product, down to, manufacturing heavy one, or even in agriculture. And ASEAN also have variety of, industry and also the agricultural development to support it, and as well as the new service, the new economy that we're talking about. So, and we coming to, that's why I think this, of course, at the Phnom Penh, we able to stamp out the 25th summit. I think this is something like the key for the business to even look at it, the kind of different cooperation. I think they stamp out very well the 25th anniversary. All kind of cooperation that include the economic business cooperation from, the digital economy, green economy, e-commerce, consumer protection, that's and MSME, small medium enterprise, all kind of things that we need to take care. Of course, coming back again, of course, China is a heavyweight, we must say, in the overall project, and ASEAN is an emerging region that we try to working together, of course, from the least developed country like Myanmar to the most developed country like Singapore, and in between we try to also coming up with kind of challenges and specialization, and for business to have room. I think this is if we're taking the GBA, for example, GBA is something very practical and being able to expand as a bigger economic zone. And this kind of example could be easily extended to mainland ASEAN, from Cambodia next to Thailand, or even connected to Vietnam, if you think of Phnom Penh not far from what do you call the Ho Chi Minh, and also Bangkok is not far, so we have also the EEC project, Eastern Economic, and Cambodia developing into Sihanouk View, and around I think there's the Ho Chi Minh. This is quite a big expand area, not least than the GBA and the kind of promotion from the top, the leadership of the government and private collaboration would be very useful. I think this is some of the project I'd like to leave it behind and for the food for thought. So China support is important, of us. ASEAN, all kind of, cooperation that ASEAN ready to move in. And listening to last but not least, the last point, this round, I think we been able to discuss very much about globalization and how to strengthen from here, because the kind of the retreat we have the past few years. So I would say globalization, the next round would be the kind of perhaps I heard the word like a green trade, the more digital and green globalization, I would say, is important. And this is the new metric of our global and regional future, which is based on, of course, the very important is about the advancement of technology and technology transformation we need to bring in at all levels to reach the young people. They are more adapted, the new generation with education and training. And also, of course, for even the old people, we're talking about the health issue, about the well-being of population in general. So this is also in a post-COVID era, we need to bring into it. And as well as, to be more sustainable, consistent with the SDG, that's at the global level, and more inclusive and resilient, which is reach all the people of both sides, the China and ASEAN. This is something I would like to, give it a food for thought for this round of discussion. Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you, Professor Chirathivat. Next, we'll move to my gentleman next to me, Dr. Sok from Cambodia.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I've listened to a previous speaker, and a few things sort of like resonate, the notion of trust. And if I can just put that notion of trust in the context of, in this case, the ASEP, it's quite interesting, because the timing of the ASEP is interesting if you compare to other development like the launch of the Belt and Road Initiative, for example, which President Xi launched in 2013. 2012, that was the launch of the ASEP negotiation in Cambodia. And it took about 8 years before the negotiation complete. And then, of course, you mentioned India, had India join in will be quite so big, but last minute, Prime Minister Modi in Bangkok, when at the chairmanship of ASEAN by Thailand, Prime Minister Modi pulled out, so we stuck with 15, but it's still quite a hefty free trade. So it took about 8 some years, and it took a few, nearly 2 years before we fully ratified, and it turned out that the whole process is a 10-year. And it started with Cambodian chairmanship in 2012, and it entered into force 10 years later when Cambodia have another chairmanship. Why it takes so long? And perhaps the notion of trust is there, is try to build the trust, because ASEP, of course, the professor initially mentioned a lot about the sector, the product, the commodity that you're going to be trading from China to ASEAN. But you have to bear in mind that ASEP is not just China and ASEAN. It's China plus ASEAN plus 10, right? 10 plus China plus Japan plus Republic of Korea plus Australia and New Zealand. So you're talking about in the UN nomenclature, and I'm looking at you, Albert, we're talking about you have a least developed country like Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar. You have a developing country like Thailand, Vietnam, China. China claim it is a developing country. And then you have developed country like Japan, Australia, New Zealand. So you see in a trade negotiation, all these things matter because you're talking about trade, meaning market access. Why should I let a certain product from a certain country have market access to my country? I want to give preference to a poorer country, in this case, a least developed country. But why should I give market access, say Japan to China, or China to Korea, or Korea to New Zealand? So you see, all these things come into play for the trade negotiator. They have to figure out how far should I open up my market access. And then the biggest challenge in this whole ASEP negotiation is all about rule of origin. You know, because say, for example, this tangerine, you know, it fetch a certain tariff, you know, percentage tariff. But if it's orange, it's another tariff. If it's Pamelo, right? It's another thing. So it's a lot. It's very tricky, very complex, very detailed. So to me, you have this complex free trade agreement. Yes, it is a massive free trade agreement, but the detail, like they say, the devil is always in the detail. And the case of the ASEP negotiation is exactly that. You know, it's not a walk in the park. It's not a bilateral free trade China with Malaysia or China with Cambodia. This is a plurilateral. It's not as complex as the WTO. You know, I was the WTO negotiator 20-some years ago to get my country to join WTO. It was tough. But ASEP is a mini WTO. It is not as difficult because only 15 countries, but you know, it's still a 15 country that you have to negotiate, right? And let's face it, the reason why India pull out because of their domestic politics. You know, I mean, they are very afraid that Chinese cheap product will overwhelm, you know, India. So I mean, but anyway, for the 15 countries that are member of ASEP now, we leave a door open for India to walk in anytime. So say, for example, Hong Kong want join in the agreement, Hong Kong have to wait like, you know, maybe a few years, 18 months, 18 months before they can apply. But for India, they can come in anytime, right? So I think ASEP is definitely a good agreement. And the one thing I really appreciate how the negotiator have thought of the SME, because a previous speaker mentioned about the SME. Most of the you know, ASEAN economy, we are SME. Let's face it. You know, you have a few multinational, a few transnational, but the rest of us, we are, you know, small, medium-sized enterprise. You know, so in the ASEP, they have a lot of good reference how to support the SME, and it has a lot of other sort of like component that reflect the current new trade reality, like e-commerce, for example. This is very, very important. You have this law on competition, for example, and the other thing that you know, my previous speaker who sit next to me mentioned, Professor Jayles, Yeoh, mentioned about who gonna drive, right? No, ASEP nobody gonna drive because it's a grouping. But my prime minister last year, when we were, not last year, this year for that matter, I meant to say last month. Last month when we had the ASEAN summit, he was pitching to have the ASEP secretariat in Cambodia, because you know we felt that you know ASEP should have a dedicated secretariat to implement the trade agreement, and we are lobbying the other 14 countries to see if we can have the ASEP secretariat in Cambodia. Of course, Indonesia want to keep in Jakarta, but I say, come on, you have the ASEAN secretariat already. Please leave the crumb to your fellow neighbor a bit, you know. But on the serious side, I think the ASEP has a good potential to really drive the post pandemic situation, right? And this one, I would say, there's some clear, I would say, relation of it as regard to the Belt and Road, because the Belt and Road is by next year will be 10 years, right? So of course the Belt and Road have its own ups and downs. You know, the West has been pretty much criticizing the Belt and Road for the governance issue, that sort of thing. But let's face it, for a country like my country, had it not been for the Belt and Road, we wouldn't have a highway like I drove from KL airport to KL. I mean, beautiful highway. We have the first highway from the capital city to the deep sea port. That's where a truck driver, instead of driving 7 hours, now take 2 hours. I mean, Western countries say, well, you know, why you let China do this? I say, look, is there any other country who have the money now to invest, you know, 1.5 billion to build a highway that they don't request a sovereign guarantee? No, right? So if they can move in as a public-private sector partnership, why not? Why not? And that's, to me, that's why I think the benefit of the Belt and Road. We have 2 brand new airports under construction now. Phnom Penh Airport will be so big, it's $1.5 billion, halfway through now. The Siem Reap Airport is almost complete now. So, but these are all the benefit of the Belt and Road. We have hydropower, 5 or 6 hydropower, 3,000 megawatt, with no sovereign guarantee. I mean, why not? So to me, I think I would want to put, in the case of my country anyway, that had it not been for the Belt and Road, we wouldn't be able to benefit from the ASEP. Because look, what can you trade if you don't have productive capacity? The Japanese always complain to my prime minister, say, your electricity is too high. But I say, look, you know, if my electricity is too high, would you come invest in my country and put $1 billion in a power plant, in a hydro plant? No, you don't. Then, I'm sorry, we have to let the Chinese build it. So, see, for us, the ASEP, the trade, the market access that are opening up of the 14 other countries for Cambodia, we can tap because of the Belt and Road that are able to invest into our productive capacity. So I would want to wrap that, that there's a clear linkage between the Belt and Road and the ASEP in this context. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. So. Now I really understand why Cambodia really support the Belt and Road Initiative, right? There's a real benefit to the country, right? Not because they really support China all the way, but there's a reason why, because they really bring benefit to the countries, right? Now I want to ask the question to Professor Cheng, right? As a Malaysian, you know, we have been talking about Belt and Road, right? But I felt that there's a lack of understanding of Belt and Road, even among the people in Malaysia. It's only at the level of Kuantan Industrial Park, all the railway project, right? But on the people-to-people level, I don't see our young people understand Belt and Road. Our young people understand China. So what can you do as a university? You know, the universities in Malaysia, what can you do to make it happen? Make it.
Thank you so much. I think this is really also for our survey. We have been conducting 3 years continuously surveys on the public perceptions of BRI in Malaysia. And indeed, we found that the awareness, understanding about BRI in Malaysia is quite low. Many people have heard about BRI, but they don't really know what is BRI. And then when we ask them, like, if you heard about BRI, what do you know about BRI? And most of them, of course, is about infrastructure. Anything come from China is BRI, including Huawei, okay? So nothing to do with, but they will take it that way. So I think the awareness is not there, because mainly I think the first phase of the activities that runs related to BRI is more mega projects, more involve the government to government type of collaborations. Very few activity actually involve the people, and that's why they see it's very far from them. It's something not related to them. So what can we do actually at Utah? I need to do a little bit promotions. We have this Belt and Road Strategy Research Center. Okay, so we are doing our research to try to actually see how we can benefit from this BRI initiative. I think what the previous speaker had mentioned it quite well. How do you see the RCEP and BRI actually work together? If we are not ready, and then how can we actually benefit when the opportunity comes to us? In fact, I see BRI in another way, not only connecting us in a physical way, but it's a platform for connectivity in various ways. And because we have this BRI Strategy Research Center at Utah, we have been contacted by people from different parts of the world, from Hungary, from Moscow, from different parts of the world, because they would like to understand more about this BRI, other perceptions than just coming from China. They want to hear the views from third parties. So that's why they will see how Malaysia actually will see the development of BRI. How do we actually benefit from it, or what are the risks that may be involved? I think we are trying our best, to do some activities, seminar, even in our institution, and also to share in the conferences. Thank you.
Yeah, I hope that we can bring the idea, down to the ground level, because we have so many clan associations, we have so many Sanghui, we have so many clan associations in Malaysia, but they don't really do much with China now. They just do it, all the old tie with China. We are from the Guangdong, we're from Fujian, but I don't see a really big changes, radical changes. So hopefully there'll be some changes, in the Kaige, in terms of our Huiguan. A lot of our associations are not doing much. They just enjoy themselves, say we are from Guangdong, we are from Fujian, but I think more can be done. Just like Singapore's LKY said, you need to reform your clan associations in Malaysia, can 发挥更大的作用, right? Tan Sri, 对吗? Tan Sri, I think you should inform the Chinese community to really change about China. China is not the same today than in the past. Even I don't understand China. Last 3 years, I didn't go to China. That's why I feel a bit lost. I was going there every month last time, right? But now I don't go there for 3 years. Suddenly I felt 比较生疏, not been there in China. So you need to go there often, for dinner, for lunch, then understand each other. So I want to ask the question to my friend from China, right? There's a lot of big companies, Guoqi, all the Yangqi, all they come out of China to do all these big projects in Cambodia, in Pakistan, right? But are there a lot of SMEs in China, coming out, right? Do you have a different resources, different, challenges from the Guoqi?
谢谢主持人。关于这个中国的一些大家可能接触多的是我们的央企在海外的投资，海外的项目合作。但是央企呢是代表我们中央政府的，一般都是在海外做基础建设比较多的。大家接触，比如说对我们马来西亚来说，我们的东部铁路啊，这些是大家印象比较深刻的，还有一些别的基础建设的东西，就是大家能认识到的中国企业来了。实际上呢，我们中国企业给大家贡献的更多的是我们的中小企业，也是非常，我们各种日用品、生活用品，基本上都是中小企业造的，就是我们接触的各种商品。就这一块呢，我希望也就是我们的大家有个认识，我们的中小企业也是非常有活力。虽然这个疫情期间呢，中小企业因为它的规模不是很大，可能抗击这个经济这个危机的这个水平也不是很高，但是它是确实非常活跃的一个群体。包括就像美国大选，他要看我们中国义乌的，义乌大家可能知道小商品，中国小商品城，那里面全是中小企业在做的。我们义乌造的谁的这个竞选的旗帜多，那我们就第一时间就知道了，可能谁的旗帜越多，他就能在大选中获胜，这就是一个信号。实际上中国就能掌握这个基础的这个信息，包括世界各国啊，他们因为中国的东西毕竟是物美价廉的，这样一个群体。所以说呢，一个中国经济的晴雨表也可以从我们中小企业这个经济上得到体现。这个大家可以关注我们这个中小企业的，因为央企呢是代表国家的这样一个整体的一个印象，可能我们直接的感受的比较多。所以说中小企业跟央企在我们中国的地位，它是一个互补的这样一个总量呢，央企很大，基本上占中国的大部分是这样子，但中小企业是非常活跃的。所以说这个希望大家能有个认识。好，谢谢。
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I'm going to ask a question to my professor from Thailand, Chulalongkorn University, about the RCEP, right? RCEP is a lot of trade tariff reduction, and it's a lot of blue collar kind of thing, right? Manufacturing, right? How about this? There was a lack of small service industry, service economy, and other area, digital and high tech stuff like that. What do you see can be improved on the RCEP, in terms of addressing those gaps, right, in the service? They are all at different stages, right? All the countries in RCEP, like you say, that Cambodia is a different stage, and Laos from Singapore and Japan, right? So how can you address the gap, and who benefit the most from this RCEP, in your opinion, right? Professor Chirathivat, yeah. Are you there, Professor? Maybe he has gone offline, right? Okay. Since my time is running out, and I was told by my professor that I need to keep my time very tight, so I'm going to ask one last thought from all the speakers, right? Give one last thought, right? Beginning with Dr. Sok, right? So you can share one liner that encapsulate one key thought that you want to leave today with audience today. One key thoughts.
Well, one key thought, well, it have to be two because I'm linking BRI and RCEP.
Okay. Granted, given to you, granted.
There's a clear relationship between the two in terms of which one come first, which one come later. The BRI have to come first to build the productive capacity to make the economy competitive. And then with that, you can capture the benefit arising from market access, which is 1/3 of the world economy. So that's where my last word.
Okay, thank you. So Professor Chirathivat, you're online, right? Maybe you can answer the question and then give you one last line.
Yes, because
We can't hear
hello.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, could you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So what would be the hello?
Can you share your one-liner, your last thought about what you are sharing with the audience, the thought that captured your key thoughts today that you want to share with the audience? Yeah.
No, much maybe discuss ASEAN,
Yeah.
China economic business collaboration.
Yeah.
I think the has been laid out, or that we're talking, of course, is ASEAN-China for the FTA. That's very almost 20 years ago. I think that step by step, and then we substantiate with BRI, as Dr. Sok already so coming at the right time. Language is connectivity, so and hard in order to promote further integration. So is the present pieces that we in order to promote further greater than ASEAN-China cooperation and integration. So our is will favor ASEAN-China in the 15 countries as we known, and the broader world to come and doing with countries. So I think it's more or less each of the countries within RCEP have to also work to reach potentiality and opportunities. Of course, ASEAN been working for quite some time to get we dealing with AEC, and now we have ASEAN-China. Of course, is very important for further integration, and RCEP is important. Of course, BRI and both RCEP we continue to strengthen partnership.
Okay, let's move to Switzerland. One-liner, Mr. Malingam. Your final last thought with us to leave with us.
Yes,
the
thank
audience.
you.
Yeah.
It has been very interesting to hear
Oh dear.
professors talking on trade and opportunity. I mean, I do have to say, I totally agree with them. RCEP will be the bridge into China. It will be a two-way street, China and ASEAN. And this will benefit the global businesses. Businesses can be attracted into and with China, right? So I'm totally for it. And as I said, we are moving our operations into Malaysia, which we have direct qualified limited partnerships with the state-owned companies, and there will be more flows from Western world coming into ASEAN, RCEP countries for Asia. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So again, the time one-liner, Prof. Jane, share one-liner.
Okay, just very short. To grow stronger, I think we all need to grow together. Thank you very much.
So I'm going to leave the final word to Mr. Sun. The last word.
希望我们进一步加强我们中国和东盟的合作。希望在将来进一步加强中国和东盟的合作，大家充分的认识、了解我们的一带一路。对，谢谢。
Okay, so thank you for all the panelists. Like Dato also say, the devil is the detail, right? There's a lot of nuances in the RCEP that we need to learn and grow together. With this, I thank all my panelists and have a wonderful day ahead of you. Thank you.